By the end of this video, I want you to be able to confidently answer 4 simple questions. Am I actually a taxpayer? If I am, what kind of taxpayer am I? Who am I dealing with? Federal, state, or both? And finally, what is expected of me, at a high level? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Temi and I explain business, finance, and compliance concepts in a way that's clear, practical, and easy to follow. In the last video, we talked about why Nigeria decided to reform its tax system in the first place. If you haven't watched that yet, I highly recommend you watch it first. We'll put the link somewhere in this video. Today, we're not getting into rates, rules, calculations, and all of that just yet. Instead, we want to really understand where we fit in all of this. Where do you really come in? Because here's the tricky part. One person can be different things in the eyes of tax law, and it is critical to clear that up before we go any further. The first thing we really need to understand is that the new tax laws don't just see a person or a business. They look past the name and they focus on 2 things: capacity and activity. Under the old system, we often got hung up on labels. You would hear things like, oh, I'm just a freelancer, I'm a market woman, I don't work inside AC, I'm just an influencer. And people assumed their label determined their tax, and that only people working 9 to 5 should pay tax. But think about it. That market woman might be making 10 million naira profit a month, while the guy sitting in suits is earning 100k a month before even his own expenses. So to make things fair, as we mentioned in the last video, the new system shifts the focus from who you claim you are to how much is really in your pocket, how much do you really make. In simple terms, the system is more interested in how much value is being generated and at what scale than in the title you use to describe yourself. So it doesn't matter if you work from a high-rise office, a home kitchen, or on your phone. If you're generating income, this new system recognizes that activity, not the uniform to wear to work, but the economic substance behind it. At the same time, scale still matters. Someone who is just starting out earning very little, and when I say little, it is relative to the broader population, is not treated the same way as someone that is generating significant income. Again, relative to the broader population. And the structure of the new system is designed to reflect those differences. How you make your money also matters, right? Because the money you make as an individual is seen differently as the one that you make through a company. But we'll come back to that distinction shortly. With this idea locked in, capacity over label. So you see, it is no longer this is who I think I am. It is how much money is in your pocket. So with this cleared, we can now answer the first question I started with. Am I actually a taxpayer? You see, once you start thinking in terms of capacity and activity and how much is in your pocket, the idea of a taxpayer becomes much simpler and also broader than many people expect. A taxpayer is not defined by whether you have a registered business or you don't, whether you have a pay slip or you don't, or whether you consider yourself to be formal or informal, or whether you even call yourself a student. Remember, all these are just labels. Now, stay with me. In practical terms, a taxpayer is anyone who earns income or runs any kind of business in Nigeria. Simple. Don't try to complicate it. You are a taxpayer if you earn any kind of income in Nigeria. Earn, income, taxpayer. Simple. Note, I did not say you must be a Nigerian citizen. I did not say you must be up to 18. I did not say you are not a taxpayer if you are a student. I did not say if you are exempt from paying tax. I didn't say that. Anybody that earns income or runs any kind of business in Nigeria is a taxpayer. I'm sure in your mind you're like, what's this guy saying? So a minor can be a taxpayer? And the answer is yes. A minor can be a taxpayer if they earn an income. The same way they can be directors of a company and they can open their bank accounts. The only thing is that their tax obligations are going to be managed by their parents or their legal guardians until they reach age 18. So what about the student? Is a student also a taxpayer? The answer is yes. Now I'll give you a simple example. If I'm a director in one of these big banks or a big company and I'm taking a course in Lagos Business School, am I not a student? Exactly. So I can be a student. I can be a student with a side hustle, selling clothes, and I'm making millions on that business. In both cases, I am a student, but that does not mean I am not a taxpayer. So the moment you start to make any money that is not gifts or allowances from your parents or guardians and all of that, you become a taxpayer. I just hope this is clear. So a few important points to clarify. Again, you can be more than one thing in the eyes of the law. This area is where many people get confused because the system does not really put you in one single box. You can be an employee and still be a taxpayer in another capacity. You can earn salary and also have a side business. You can be a student and be a business owner. You can be a business owner and still earn money from crypto. You can have multiple jobs and still be a content creator. You can even have multiple companies. So from the perspective of the tax system, all these are just different streams of activities attached to the same person. So when the law talks about taxpayers, it's not asking you to choose an identity. It's asking you to account for all the different ways you make money. Now, and this is why people sometimes feel surprised when tax issues come up. You may be compliant in one area and not compliant in another area. So let me give you an example. You work in a company, so your salary is already taxed. But you also have a building you rent out in your village or whatever. You rent that building out and you make money from there. Even though you have already paid taxes on them, your employer has already paid taxes on your salary, you have a building. So that means they can tell you that you did not fully declare your income, right? So it is your responsibility to bring all your income together and file. Now, what if you don't live in Nigeria? Again, that does not mean you are not a taxpayer. There's something called resident and non-resident taxpayers. If you live in Nigeria for at least 183 days in a year, that's about 6 months, or you have a permanent home here, you are a resident taxpayer. For you, the rule is simple, but it's very powerful. You are taxed on your global income. Whether you make it from Peru or you make it from dividend in New York or you have side gig paying you in dollars, it is all theoretically visible to the Nigerian tax system. Just that if the country you make money from deduct tax already, emphasis on might, you might be able to reduce the tax you pay in Nigeria by the tax that country has already paid, right? On the other hand, we have non-residents, right? Non-residents, these are people or company who do not live here but make money from here. So for them, the rule is you are taxed only on the income you make in Nigeria, right? You're taxed only on the income So let's say you jackpot, but you still get gigs from Nigerian businesses, or you have a building you rent out in Nigeria, or you still pay tax on the income you make in Nigeria, right? Another set of people might be thinking, Timmy, I earn minimum wage, or my business is still tiny. Am I still a taxpayer? The answer is yes. But being a I'm hammering on this thing a little bit. Being a taxpayer does not necessarily mean you have to pay tax. It only implies that you are recognized as an economically active person. So whether you actually part with money depends on that capacity principle we just talked about. how much you make. So don't run away from the label taxpayer. It is just anybody. So far you're making money, it doesn't mean that you will pay tax. So you can be a taxpayer and not have to pay any tax. But there are some things you must do. I will get to that later. Now that we know if you are a taxpayer or not, how does the system identify you as the same person across different activities, places, and tax authorities? And this is where identity comes in. For the tax system to work at all, it needs a consistent way to recognize you, not just once, but across different activities, different locations, and different points in time. That consistency is what the tax ID is meant to provide. Somebody just asked me, why don't they just use NIN? Well, companies are taxpayers, but they cannot have NIN. Okay, why don't they just use BVN? Actually, that's a good point. But not everybody has a bank account in Nigeria. And some taxpayers, like we mentioned, they are not even residents. For example, Facebook makes money from Nigeria, but they may not have bank accounts in Nigeria. So we need a separate universal identifier that works across individuals, companies, residents, and non-residents. Under the new framework, the idea is one taxable person, one tax identity. So if you have a registered company, how many tax ID will you have? 2, exactly. One for you, one for the company. So if you have a registered company, the company would have its own tax ID. You too, you have your own personal tax ID. So that's 2. If your business is not incorporated, that means you've not registered your business. You would have only one tax ID because your business is seen as you and you are seen as your business. If you have 3 registered companies, your 14-year-old child makes money from some small business that she does. How many tax IDs will you have like that? 3 registered companies and your 14-year-old child. So that would be 5. One for you, one for your daughter, one for each of the 3 companies. So that makes it 5. Basically, this tax ID is linked to all your other forms of ID. It's linked to your NIN, it's linked to your phone number, it's linked to your international passports, it's linked to your BVN. And you can retrieve it. You can retrieve your tax ID right now. If you don't have it, get your phone and visit taxid.nrs. Hopefully we're able to put this on the screen. taxid.nrs.gov.ng. Again, to get, if you have not gotten your tax ID today, even if you have it before, maybe for Lagos State government, and you want to check the new tax ID that has been assigned to everybody now, go to taxid.nrs.gov.ng or dial *346# on the number you used to register for your NIN. So if you're an individual, but this USSD, this *346 only works for personal tax ID only. So dial *346# on your number, and then you will get your tax ID. That ID is like your NIN, but this one is for tax purposes. And this brings us to the next question. If we are all taxpayers, what kind of taxpayer are you? Please follow me on this one. What kind of taxpayer are you? Because this determines who you answer to, right? Who you are actually dealing with. I need you to really stay with me on this one. It seems technical, but once you get it, you get it. As far as tax is concerned, there are mainly 3 categories of taxpayer you need to care about right now. There are more, but we don't need to worry about those. Just keep these 3 in mind, because going forward, anytime we talk about tax, the first question will be, which category am I acting as right now? If you are doing something right now, which category would you put yourself? That category will determine the tax that you will pay. So category 1, individuals. Individuals are just individuals, one person. You are not a registered business with the CAC. You earn income from employment, self-employment, side gig, or a remote job in your personal capacity. You do all the work, they pay all the money into your personal account. Who do you answer to? the state government where you live. Right? The state government where you live. So if if I don't know if maybe I'll talk about non-residents later. So if you're just an individual, the person that you pay your tax to is your state government. So if you're in Lagos, you pay to Lagos State Internal Revenue Service. If you're in Abuja, you pay to FCT Internal Revenue Service. If you are in Kano, you pay to Kano State Internal Revenue Service. If you are in Rivers, you pay to Rivers State, like that. Category 2, businesses that are not separate legal persons. Remember, I'm talking about how the boxes, and I said there are 3 that we need to worry about. So the category 1 was individuals. Now, category 2, businesses that are not separate legal persons. This covers things like business name, Ali and Sons Enterprises, or partnerships, In these cases, the business does not exist separately from the people running it. The business does not legally exist separately from the people running it. For you, just like individuals, your primary taxes go to the state government. So if you register business name, you register taxes, your taxes go to where? State government. Category 3, businesses that are separate legal persons. This category 3 is just, let me just put it in your mind, limited liability company. Once you see any company that has limited or PLC or LTD at the back of their name, that one is a business that is a separate legal person. Every other person is an individual or a business that is not a separate legal person. Now, the business that is like a separate legal person in the eyes of the law, it can own property. It can sue, and you can sue the business on its own, separate from the owners. These people, they primarily answer to the federal government, so the Nigerian Revenue Service. Just to recap, there are 3 categories. Individual, that's like me, I'm an individual. You too, you're an individual. If you now register a company that has LTD, that will be business that is a separate legal person. If you are running business, but it is a business name, or it is a partnership, that will be business that are not separate legal persons. So 3, individuals, business that are not separate legal persons, business that are separate legal persons. So let's apply this to real life, because the kind of money you make also matters. So salary earner, you work for employer, but your employer deducts tax from your salary. Where would they take that money to? They will take it to state government, because the money is your money, but they remove inside it for tax, and you are an individual, so they will take that money and pay to the state government where you live. Although there's an exception for those in the armed forces, in the police and foreign service, like all those ambassadors, all those ones, their tax go to federal government. But every other individual, your tax goes to state. If you run a limited company, your company pays company income tax to the federal government. But let me trick your brain a little bit. If the company pays your salary, remember they are paying salary to you, and they are paying income to you. It is your own income, and you are an individual. So any tax they remove from you, they pay to the state. But when it comes to the profit of the company itself, the taxes go to federal government. Now, there are some taxes that always go to federal government, no matter who you are. But the people that usually have to deal with these taxes are either businesses that have hit a certain threshold, or businesses that have hit a certain threshold. As an individual, you don't have business with this one. I mean when you say like one person like me, as an individual operating in my personal capacity, I don't have business with these taxes. Example is VAT, stamp duties. Those ones, they go straight to federal government. Please note, I beg of you, if you are running business by yourself and you have not met the threshold, say you are running a barber shop, or you are an hairdresser, or you are whatever, and you don't have a registered business, and you did not opt to file VAT, and you have not met the 100 million naira threshold for, the identification of small businesses, you are not allowed to collect tax from anybody as an ordinary individual. Please, if you are a business owner, whether you are running a small business, you have not made up to 100 million naira in a year. You see this federal government, and you are not a business. You are not. I mean, when I say you are not a business, I mean you do not register your business. Even if you register the business, if you've not met the threshold and you have not opted to be, filing for VAT and these things, you are not allowed to collect tax from anybody in your capacity as an individual. If you do, well, like Timi Agbaje says, 2 portions of rice, you know where. So to summarize, individuals and enterprises and unregistered business, your tax goes to the state. Individuals, enterprises, unregistered business, your tax goes to the state. PLC, LTD, tax goes to federal government. VAT goes to federal government, but only businesses that are allowed to charge VAT should charge VAT. If you are a barber shop, you are not registered, you have not met the threshold, don't charge VAT. Okay. Oops. Last and final question for today. So what exactly do they expect you to do? I mean, this new law, what does it expect you to do? If you take nothing away from this video, please remember this. The era of waiting for a taxman to come and send you bill is over. If you wait, you will not like yourself. Under the old system, many people just waited for tax authority to perform what they called best of judgment assessments. Basically, they will just guess how much you owe. They will slam you with a bill. Then you argue, negotiate, fight, and then you settle on something. Now the power is in your hands. Like my people will say, oh, the system expects 3 things from you. 3 things from you. First of all, keep records of what you earn and spend. In fact, I would recommend that you keep it for as long as 7 years to be safe. How much did I spend? How much did I save? How much did I make, rather? Write it somewhere. If it's inside a book, write it. If it's inside paper, write it. By yourself, the second thing, by yourself, at the end of every year, calculate your own income and your tax. And the third thing, pay what you calculated if any amount is due. 3 things that the system expects from you. Again, keep records. Second, by yourself, or you can use the help of professionals, or if you know what you are supposed to do, ask. If you don't know, if you know what you are supposed to do, do it. If you don't know, ask professionals. Calculate your own income and your tax. And third, pay what you calculated if any tax is due, and do all of it on time, because everything has a timeline. So think of it like this. You are marking your own assignments first. The government would only check it later with the system. If you did not file, or the system checks and it looks like you were honest, great, you are good, nothing else. But if the system checks and find out that you lied, or you hid income, or 90% of all your transfer in the year is tagged as gifts, they will charge you penalty. And to be honest, in these new reforms, the penalties are much harsher under the new laws, so that they would encourage dishonesty. I need to scream this from the rooftop. I know my voice is probably not that loud. Filing a return is not the same thing as paying tax. Remember I said you're supposed to do 3 things. You're supposed to keep records. You're supposed to file your returns. You're supposed to tell the government that this is how much I made. So you calculate your own income and your own tax and submit it by yourself. Everybody is meant to file, right? Filing return is not the same thing as paying any tax. The same way being a taxpayer does not mean you have anything to pay. Filing a return is not the same thing as paying tax. Filing a return just means you are telling the government, this is how much I make, this is how much I made, there is no tax. Simple. For example, you can literally file a return that says, dear Mr. Government, I made 100,000 naira I made 100,000 naira this year. My tax payable is 0, and that is a very perfect, valid legal tax return. And you might ask, why would I need to file since I don't have anything to pay? Filing creates your record for the year. How would I know that truly it's only 100k you make if you did not write it? I will not come and start asking everybody. We expect you as a responsible citizen. I mean, the law, not we, not because the law expects you as a responsible citizen to go and file your taxes by yourself. Because it creates your record for the year. So you want to register land, they will ask for tax clearance. You want to do government contracts, they will ask for tax clearance. You want a visa, tax clearance. You want a loan, tax clearance. Governments want to give support to those that are most vulnerable. They will know who to give based on tax filings. So even as an employee, even if you don't have any side hustle, at the end of every year, you are required to file your returns. Just say, this is my gross salary for the year. This is how much my employer deducted. I don't have anything extra to pay. Simple. It's an online process. Some states have, sometimes you might even get refund. And I gave somebody this example recently. Let's say you work in a company and, your employer remove the appropriate tax from your salary. And they do that. And at the end of the year, because your employer did not know your rent, or maybe your rent changed in the middle of the year, then your employer did not compute that tax. When you now calculated it by yourself at the end of the year, you see that your tax is supposed to be lower than what was paid. You will file and you will collect refund, right? Because your employer did not consider rent relief because they didn't know. So by yourself, file. The next question you might ask is, when do you file? Broadly speaking, it is once a year. It is once a year for all of us. It's once a year. Usually by March 31st of the following year. So for this 2026 now that they just for this 2026, all your income that you calculate for 2026, it is next year you pay it between January and March 2027. So like all you need to be doing now is to be keeping records of your income, know your gross salary, know the tax that they remove, know the pension that they remove, know everything, right? So take out your what do you call it? Take time to keep these records. So at the end of the year, calculate everything. Between next year, January and March, you would file your return. For limited companies, they have 6 months after their financial year end to file. Oops, this has been quite a long one. And there you have it. If you truly understand this framework, you are already ahead. 90%. You're already ahead of 90% of the population. You have the map, and we just need to fill in the details. So in the next video, we're going to zoom in specifically on individuals, the rates, the exemptions, and some practical tips that you could use to stay compliant. If you are a salary earner, freelancer, or remote worker, that's the video for you. Feel free to share this video if you learned something new, and please drop your feedback or any questions that you have in the comments. See you on the next one.